Welcome to the Christian Principles Podcast. I'm Matt George.
And I'm Mark Zockel,
That's
and
who I
we are
am.
wearing. Oh, that's good. I'm glad you know that. I'm glad you affirm that. We're in a day and age where affirming that and knowing that isn't necessarily, you know, even allowed. Sometimes
Yeah,
it's not
gotta be
cool.
careful.
But I do want to point out, as it's obvious, that we are in some sweet headgear today. And if you can't see it, just know the Team U came through. Okay, Team U
Yeah,
came through for me in a big way. These cheapo hats, man. I'll be wearing this for a long time.
it's comfy.
It reminds me of like the beach hat. Yeah, the beach hat that
Yeah,
the lifeguards wear.
that's exactly what it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, we are today going to be talking about a topic which we've already spent some time on, and we're excited to do so. It is actively retaining teachers, part two. Part two as a response.
Part two. I must say, I have, out of all of our topics that we've discussed and that we've recorded, I have very much enjoyed these reaction episodes when we've gotten some feedback and we've been able to revisit the topic and get into it further. I feel like I don't know. I enjoy it. I don't know if our listeners enjoy them more than the original, but I like diving deeper into topics. So I look forward to more of these in the future.
Absolutely. Please let us know what you have to say. And one of the ways you can do that, of course, is by making sure you hear us more. And to hear us more, yep, I got there. Please do subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts. Please do subscribe to us on Spotify or wherever you're picking up the rest of your podcast. We're on a lot of different services now, thanks to the one who is helping us out. We also have, of course, coming up something that we have noted in previous episodes. But on March 24th, there is the Maryland Association of Christian Schools Administrators meeting. And it is not just closed to those in Max. However, Max better have a good showing this year. It is open to anybody that wants to come and be a part of that. It's going to be an awesome opportunity. Matt and I get to co-host it. We were actually just looking over some plans. We were talking about baseball cards. Guys, it's going to be a lot of fun to be there on March 24th. It's just one day. Drive over, drive back, be back home at a decent time, and just rub shoulders, be with, gain ideas from other Christian school administrators. Please come out and be with us on March 24th. They're in northern Maryland, almost southern Pennsylvania.
Right. All right.
But to today's topic.
Yeah, to the topic today, we've got a wonderful listener that is taking us at our word and is being an active listener and not just taking what we're saying because, we're the professionals. We've got all the answers. And we're getting comments, and so we want to first of all just say thank you for reacting, for giving us these questions, these comments that we'll just kind of walk through. But this is referring back to our episode on actively retaining teachers and the little things that we do, or at least we've heard of. Part of this, actually, we just brought up the administrators retreat. A lot of this came out of a former administrators retreat. So another plug there for that as well. So let's jump into it. Let's walk down through our comments.
Yeah, so the way these comments came in, this is a friend of mine who actually texted me back and bulleted, not bulleted list, but a numbers list. And there were 7 different parts. So we won't going to park at the same time on each 7. But we're going to start with the first one and roll through them. So the first one was, great idea with providing teacher lunch and volunteers to supervise class while they eat. And I think he correctly noted what we stood at, what we said is a big deal in that we would provide for the common adult time. It's not just the lunch by itself. That's great. And that's a blessing. Maybe that's all you can do. But if partnering that lunch opportunity with a group of volunteer parents, subs, even if they have to be brought in, just for that hour to give a true lunch hour, how awesome could that be? Is that?
Yeah, just to let our teachers breathe, even for a few minutes. it's such a big deal, and I know that's something I wish we could do more of. And I know parents are often looking for opportunities, so take advantage of that and
Mhm.
get them in to give the teachers that much needed break in their day.
No,
The
I'm really
second
excited about
comment,
this
oh
one.
yeah, go for it. Yeah, go for
You
it.
go. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, our connection might not be as strong as it is usually. We have a strong connection, but our internet connection maybe. We had the power out here last night for 4 hours. That's what it looked like about being.
Ooh,
And so, and we are by no means connected to North Carolina, Florida, or any of the horrendousness of the hurricanes going on right now. But it's just for whatever reason, our power and was down, and it was interesting. You know, what used to be fun as a kid is not fun anymore as the parent. Even trying to pass it off to my 4 year old, my now she's a 5 year old today actually, which is pretty cool. But
yeah, happy
even
birthday.
passing it off to them, yeah, even passing it off to them as something that was enjoyable wasn't. It's not as easy anymore because they're getting real cranky when they're not home in their beds at a certain time. So anyway, but power hopefully between us remains strong as it is. But what I would want to say is um, I'm in a situation now where I actually get to be hopefully even by the end of this month being one of those persons who comes in and tries to make this thing happen at the school that my family is investing in now. And I'm looking forward to doing that. I'll check back in and see how it goes, see if that's something that actually I can get parents around me to do with me, and we'll check back in and see how it goes later. But yeah, Matt,
Yeah.
take us to the second point.
Yeah, so the second one is dealing with me in particular. So
Yeah, he
it's
called you out.
asking he called me out on this one. So ask
Yeah.
Matt if the PE teacher and driver's ed teachers win his bingo game all the time. Just and if the answer is no, ask him if it's the history teacher. But just to give context to that, I mentioned our well-being bingo, which we actively have going right now for the month of October. I know this episode isn't
Mhm.
going to be out in October, but um, I've got a lot of different things, and we try to vary up the activities. So yes, the people who you would expect to be more active perhaps would be the ones winning, but I am trying when I create these things to make sure there's a broad variety of things.
Yeah.
But I wanted to point out a couple of the ones that are on this month because I think I, I I don't know if I communicated it very well in our last episode of what type of things I might be talking about because I know we mentioned that we do kind of our brain and brawn activity as well, like go out and run a mile. Like, okay, yeah, I
Mhm.
expect the PE teacher to win that one. But, here's one, just a simple one, gave a student a compliment. If you did that, you check it off, and hopefully
Mhm.
everybody's already checked that one off. Close your eyes and take a deep breath. Like, this is one I can literally do right now. And by the way, I don't have that one checked off yet. Uh,
It's been a crazy week. Okay, today's
it
a
has
casual
been
day. What can I say?
it's been a crazy week. I don't have time to do that. Um, let's see here. What else? No technology for the night. Ooh, that one's tough. Cooked a new recipe. Played a board game with a friend. Colored a picture because teachers need to color too. Um, thought on positives of the day. And my favorite one on this whole board for this month went outside at home and screamed. That's my favorite one.
Oh,
Just go
scream!
outside and yell.
Now
So,
I do remember the
yeah.
last time you couldn't even remember what the title of this thing was. So I'm glad you did
Yeah, yeah.
bring that back
The
up. You couldn't remember what we were
well-being
calling
bingo. Yeah.
well-being bingo. Yeah, so I'm glad you're able to bring that back to attention and actually go through some of the more interesting pieces. And the question, I get where he's coming from. We did mention that last time too. That one of the things we should be aware of is just making sure that if we are having any kind of physical activity in it, we are doing
Yeah.
so with a thought to the breadth of our teachers and their physical abilities. Are there any we need to be conscientious of any limitations and what those could mean for well-being bingo and having someone feel left out. So the point taken, and
Yeah.
I would suppose that this actually does reach out to more than just a couple.
Yeah, that was actually the big selling point to me on the bingo, and we don't do it every month. I think we do like 4 bingo challenges throughout the year, but that is the most frequently used one because it is literally like stop and think for a second, stop and do something that we all can do. And sure, there might be a challenging box on there that we might want to stretch ourselves on every once in a while, like, turn your phone off for 2 hours. Like, ooh, it's good. Um, but yeah, we want to be mindful that whenever I make these, that you know, I don't want there to be a teacher that says, "Oh, I can't do any of these things," or there's no way I can win because, there's not a single line on here that, has doesn't have something overly challenging. So it is definitely something that we want to keep in mind when creating activity type uh, challenges.
Absolutely. All right, so number three. Number three says break rooms are nice, and we're going to see this as a common theme for the rest of these as he's providing them. But break rooms are nice. Breaks are better. Build a 1 week break into the school calendar after every 9 weeks of school. Okay, so now we're talking about this is a big deal. This is like board
Yeah.
level. Are we
Yeah.
going to make a significant change to our calendar? But let's get crazy. Let's talk about it. I've always been one to say, let's go out of the box and let's not be scared of it.
Yeah.
Why? If we're scared of going outside the box, what are we in this for? We have kids that aren't scared to go out of the box. So I don't hate the thought. And as a parent, and I'll speak personally, of course, because that's what I can speak to. But as a parent
Sure.
of children, or I should put it this way, as a professional in my current space, I'm doing almost 99% virtual work. And my wife, she has a job that is considered full time that's only 3 days a week. So for my family, this doesn't sound too terribly bad as how this would impact the logistics of my day to day. But Matt, I don't think I'm 99% of your school's population in that front.
No, I don't think so. And you know what? I will say this is not a thought, the 1 week break every 9 weeks of school, that has not crossed my mind. I mean, I have given this thought. In fact, I believe there is a model out there that some follow of even the year-round school where you have a
Mhm.
quarter of school and then a significant break between quarters, that are kind of evenly dispersed throughout the entire year. So the kids are just continuously in school, but also are getting their breaks, which is I don't know how I feel about that. That to me is a bit more challenging, but um, the week break is wonderful on the teacher side of things. If I could give teachers a week off at the end of every quarter marking term, that's nice because it rejuvenates, it allows them to make sure that they're planning on the appropriate start to the next quarter. There's a clear end, a clear start. But as you were saying, Mark, the logistics of not just the families and their schedules, but then you have the added holidays that are going to be in the school year, and to work around those is awfully complicated. Are we going to start our year earlier? Are we going to end our year later? Those are all things that have to be discussed with families. In fact, even without this,
Mhm.
I get real scared. I think one of our potential topics that we can talk about is length of school year because um, if I try to start any earlier in in into August, if we start school in August, which I know a lot of schools are doing now.
Yeah, we're the unique ones and not starting in
Yeah,
August, right?
you're
In
right.
Maryland and
We
Eastern Shore.
starting
So
the day after Labor Day, right? I just know for like the first 2 weeks, we would have very low attendance because
Yeah.
this is a time of work vacations and that people are just gone. So, our preseason suffers during that time. Our teacher orient or our parent orientation is very strategically placed so that we're getting as many people as possible. And so to start school earlier, that's rough. To
Yeah.
go later through the year, which again, other schools are also doing. Um, that one, if we ever had to make a significant change, that's where it would be for us. We would be going later. We wouldn't be starting earlier.
Mhm.
But yeah, to just have the breaks we already have, we're squeezing in school as best as possible.
Yeah.
So to add in basically 3 extra weeks off, that is a logistical issue. Not that it's not a desirable thing.
Yeah.
I think it's
Well,
totally desirable.
and then you also think about, well, if it's a week after every 9 weeks, technically we don't need the first week because they have the summertime coming off of that, and you wouldn't need whatever the last week is. So if it's every 9 weeks, is that really only asking to add 2 weeks back into the school year, or is it 3? And then of course we do have significant time at an Easter break or a Christmas break.
Yeah.
Is that enough time? So the question, again, completely value the third point here, that breaks being built in are, and specifically this one is speaking of the school calendar, like a longer break.
Yeah.
We'll see more specific, like room breaks, schedule breaks in the day and whatnot coming up, but I don't mind the thought, and if there is flexibility that would make the school stronger, that would be appropriate for the mission and should be considered, even if the tradition of the school is we only go to school for XYZ, or we need to make sure we have 190 days in. Like, if you're in a position where someone's not dictating that to you, or even if you are, but you can be creative with when it happens, then be creative with it. See what's best for your population. Then that's going to be. We don't want to be in the same. Christian schools should not be in the same scheduling. Shouldn't have the same scheduling issues necessarily that their peers do. Their peers who, because of their zip code, their zip code determines which students they get. Like, that's not really who we shouldn't be having those same kind of we have to because we have to thoughts.
Yeah, and just I think one more thing before we jump into the next point that I would say is definitely we need to, as school leaders, we do need to be looking at our calendars and be thinking along the lines of, okay, where are the teachers going to be close to a breaking point? And do we have a break that we can get them to? I know Thanksgiving break, Christmas break for me is always not just we're breaking because of those times, but I want to make sure that I cushion those times where teachers may be gone, but it's not filled up with travel. It's not filled up with they're actually going to get a break.
Yeah.
Or the other holidays that may come up. Easter, we give a little bit of extra time as somewhat of a spring break for our teachers around Easter time.
Mm-hmm.
So just be mindful of that, of looking through your calendar and saying, oh wow, here's a long stretch where there's nothing. Then build something into that.
I remember looking at October and saying October has no break. It's just all school in October. When you go to December, and of course it's split up 100 times, and then you go even into some of the, you think about the spring break time, whatnot. There are those, like you said, long stretches sometimes that maybe there's a PD, a half day, bring in only, have students go and peer review. I don't know. Kids go with your parents to work day, half day.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Anyway. All right.
Let's get on to this next one. So the next one says, don't waste teacher time with always stupid, always worthless professional development days. I don't know. Maybe I've added a little bit of emphasis on that.
I mean,
that's the way I read it.
Always stupid, always worthless. This is what it's supposed to come across at.
And then he says, I think I had one meaningful professional development session in my years. Was it 8 years?
Yeah, I'm about to say,
I-
now this peer was a professional
Yeah.
educator who then took a job in a non-education field. So
Yeah.
left teaching, but he did have time spent and was a teacher. Was never in administration. He was a
Right.
teacher. He's a football coach too, actually. So that's where he's coming from.
Well, and I just to respond to that, first of all, like if I am building in professional development days, like I want it to be painfully obvious, not just to the teachers, but to me as to why it is worth it.
Yes.
So if I'm sold on it, I should be a pretty good at being able to sell it to the teachers.
Mhm.
So now I do try to avoid that. And when I think back to our in-service or out-service times, orientation time versus, I do want to value that time where we're coming together, where we're training or we're talking through specific points or weak points that we need to strengthen. And if I've scheduled in more than, I'll just say more than 3 hours in a day to do that, then we are going to hit a point where I'm being tuned out and
Yeah.
it's
That
wasted.
wall is up.
It's
Yep.
absolutely
It's not
wasted. And just to finish his statement here, he says instead, how about just let them work in their rooms, which I really do value that. And I want to,
Yeah.
maybe that's because I was a teacher myself.
Well, we
that
talked about
I
that.
find the value in that. You know what? Teachers are amazing at finding the life hacks of school, right? Or being able to find solutions to our school-wide problems if they just have a little bit of time to themselves, even. Like that's where, hey, I was in my room and I was working through this and I thought about XYZ.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. Let's do that. I mean, I had a teacher comment to me, actually, she messaged me, it wasn't during school time, of like, oh, I saw this great idea of something that we can be doing during emergency situations. And I got to look through it and think through it. And that's the time where creativity, I feel, is plentiful. Whereas when you tell teachers, okay, we're going to come together and we're going to talk through this issue, they're going to already have a mindset of, oh, I don't want to talk about this. And so the creativity is suddenly dropping, or, wow, this is an important topic. And so, yeah, we are going to have good conversation, but it's going to be maybe opinionated, maybe, well, I don't feel like talking about it right now. So, I won't contribute. So it's only going to go so far. So there needs to be time we're going to have this professional development time together. We're not going to whip a dead horse. We're going to just get it out there. We're going to accomplish what we can get done, and then go and talk and think and journal and whatever else. And as other things come up, we'll follow up later on. And that's where I think the value is going to eventually play out.
Episode 6 and episode 9 of this podcast include our thoughts on the layout of a back to school orientation, as well as our thoughts on the content later on episode of what should be done in those times. And we talk specifically about that balance that we all would hope to strike. And maybe if we are in a situation where the contracts demand something one way or the other, we are hamstrung in that way. But every administrator is going to know that there's going to be things that have to be done in those settings.
Yeah.
Hopefully, maybe walk away with the benefit of the doubt needs to be given to the professional teacher. Supposing they're professional teachers, let's put that out there. We're not dealing
Right.
with A+ across the board teachers at any one of our schools. Like we know the ones that need help and we know the ones that don't need anything. Like, sure, maybe the ones who don't need anything could be in a room by themselves and succeed as other professions. But let's not get it twisted. Other professions absolutely have continuing education requirements that some of this PD does go into. And again, we're talking very broadly about PD. He was in a public school setting. There's going to have certain mandates from both his union and what the administration of the district is going to want versus where we are pretty much what we say goes on that front. So PD could have a very different meaning for our school.
Right.
And so, just be being careful of that on both sides, but knowing what has to get worked through. Absolutely. All right, number 5. If a teacher is burned out, don't try and save them. Tell them it's okay to quit semester. They cannot be saved. Okay, now this, I remember in our previous episode having a conversation of, asking a teacher just to take the rest of the day. Just take the rest of the day. We'll figure it out on this end. Please go because I need you here, not need you burn out. I don't disagree that I don't want to be the Holy Spirit in somebody's life.
Right.
I don't want to do that. I don't want to get in and try to manipulate them into staying or going. However, there is the very real sense that I have, again, the service industry, at least we are in some part. I have a bunch of paying parents who drop off their children at whatever time o'clock in the morning. And they're not looking to pick up those children just because I can't have somebody fill that role. Oh, and by the way, the people filling that role, they kind of need to have at least something behind their name saying they can do this. So it's not as easy as go and find somebody in today's day and age, in the modern time, when substitutes, are probably where we have teachers pulled from right now, because the substitutes of yesteryear are now our full-time teachers. Other teachers have been leaving. We were in this great need of teachers nationally. At some level, my only point of disagreement here is if I can get them to finish out some amount of time, it is something I probably should do for my greater constituency, because they did sign a contract, because if I can push that out a little bit and give myself some kind of time to get somebody else appropriate in the role, I might need to do that, whether or not I actually want to. So it could be a matter of just the job dictates it. Like I have to have a body there, and I'm not going to not have a body there.
Right.
And so I gotta ask him to stick it out for a little bit longer.
That was my thought exactly. Like, we walk away. We don't have anybody to step in to that spot. So while I totally understand it is potentially harmful, I mean, very much going to be harmful to have a burnout teacher.
We realize that. I get it.
Absolutely. But, you could also be surprised I'm going to give you a week off and see what happens. And after that week, being able to sit down and think and hopefully spend a lot of time with the Lord and get perspectives, corrected, and they might be able to come back and be even stronger because of it. Again, I feel like this does go back to, we want to be preventing our teachers from getting to that point. And so that is, yes, a lot on them, but it is also a lot on us and how we're setting them up.
If this person comes in and drops this bomb on us in our office and we truly have no idea where it came from, well, in some measure, shame on us, because we've got to have a better finger on the pulse than that.
Yeah.
And he does say it's okay to quit at the semester. So
yeah,
we can. My response didn't necessarily bring in those 3 words, but let's give our friend here some
at an appropriate time. Yeah, at an appropriate time where we've been able to say, okay, well, and I think that statement is we'll have enough time to find a replacement, and we'll take care of it from there. I get it, but at the same time, I'm watching all of these teachers that are leaving education entirely. And I have to ask the question, number one, why were they in education to begin with? Because I feel like if you're leaving because I think this is an expectation that you're going to be pushed to your limit, and just going into it by its very nature is going to be challenging. But at the same time, the vast majority I think are leaving education based on their personal experience, and they're thinking, well, this must be the way it is everywhere. And I would say, well, that's
a good point.
That's not the way it is. And
that's a good point. Yeah.
I would rather see teachers saying, this school may not be getting it right, but I'm sure there's a school out there that is, and I can look for that.
So when I was my previous employment, the ladies in the office taught me that if I have something to say, I need to twist my fingers. So I don't remember what it is. I have 4 twisted fingers right now in our video
I'm
feed.
pretty sure that just means like you don't mean it.
That's true. Like I don't mean what I'm going to say.
Oh,
But
double cross.
yeah,
Okay,
double
all right.
cross. But the first
that
one,
negates it.
the first one was, I'm not going to say as I know in an overgeneralized way why the teachers are leaving, but I'll tell you this. If the colleges and universities that are pumping out these teachers don't start doing a better job about telling teachers what they're walking into
Yeah.
post COVID, shame on them.
Yeah.
If it's a professor in education who has not been in a classroom post COVID, well, again, shame on them, because they're probably resurrecting what was their experiences in the classroom, which is not going to be fair to these teachers.
Right.
And shame on the program that doesn't shove their teacher candidates into more than just one semester of placements. I don't care if you have to drop other parts of the credits of your program. Give them more credits for going and being in their observation time, being in their practicum time. Give them more credits for that, and up those practicum hours, because they will give a much better feel for 2 different placements rather than just one placement. Or even if they should have a much better feel about how those classroom and how their life's work is going to be.
Yeah.
If those universities and colleges start doing a better job of getting them ready for what today's classroom is, not what previous classrooms were. So that was one big point I wanted to make. The other one, my fingers hurt now because I was holding them this way for so long. But you had wound up at a place I'm not going to remember now. I'm trying to bring it back to my mind. I was on the train and I was off the train. You said different teachers. Okay, so I'm glad we're only talking to principals right now. I'm glad nobody else is listening in.
Yeah, nobody.
Because I have often thought about, I do a lot of equating, of course, of what we do to my favorite sports leagues or teams or just the processes or whatnot. I was just talking with a peer and said, when it comes to substituting, I don't really want to pull my left tackle to play right tackle, which now means I am hurt at 2 positions. I'd rather just keep my left tackle where my left tackle is and bring in a substitute for my right tackle, because I'm only hurting at 1 position. I'm at least, if I go from 100% to 90% because I have a 1-man loss, well, I don't want to drop down to 85% proficiency because now I'm switching somebody up to a different place. I'd rather just go a 1-for-1 replacement and leave everybody else in their places of strength, assuming they're in a place of strength before. Well, in the same way, when you said teachers are perhaps putting on other schools what their current atmosphere was or reasons for leaving was, that's fair. That we have an example. Your school has an example of that right now in someone who came from a different place and perhaps has received some measure of rejuvenation. I think, and why I said I'm only talking to principals here, not teachers, is because I have long thought about becoming a free agent. Becoming an agent for teachers. Have me, sign all the releases. Have me come sit with you, and specifically for Christian school teachers, have me come sit with you because you are valuable. So I do my homework on the school. I do my homework on the teachers there. I do my homework on their needs, and I come and sit with the teacher and I say, okay, the teacher's giving me free rein to talk for the teacher. We aren't going to discuss this. I know that you have a salary schedule that you've worked on. I know that you have these needs. I know that the agent that I represent has these abilities, and they're willing to work these ways. Here's what they're willing to start at for money, but here's the other 5 things they're going to need. I think what we're going to see, especially in Christian schools, if I'm going to do some bit of prophesying here, we're going to have teachers that start coming in and actually negotiating contracts in a way that they haven't been used to doing in the past. We're going to have teachers that come in and say, listen, I know that so-and-so is willing to just do what they've done because they're willing to do it, but that's not where I am. I'm willing to actually have some skin in this negotiation, and you can hold me to a higher standard because of it. That's fine. You come back with me like, if I'm going to give you this more money, if I'm going to give you this time, you're also going to do X, Y, Z. Okay, that's fine. And that's where we negotiate it out. But I think we're very much going to be in a time when teachers take more control of that because, again, between you and me and the rest of the principal listening, the teachers have that right now. If a teacher came to us today and said, if all the teachers at the school that I was at came to me and said, we're walking out tomorrow if we don't get $5,000 more a piece. You know what? We would come up with $5,000 a piece to give to them because otherwise we'd be shutting down. Even if there was, I'm being a little bit hyperbolic, but only a little bit, because that's when we make the hard decisions about, okay, well, tuition is going to be raised, and I have a very good reason for it right now, or we are going to go ahead and move to the front of our priorities. This in our 5-year plan, this understanding that we're going to have every teacher will have 4 hours off in their week at some point, or however it's measured in minutes or hours, whatever it happens to be, or that we won't have any more than 15 in the classroom. Like, we're going to actually prioritize these things, which means we're going to be renegotiating a lot of our structure as a school. Well, you know what? If the teachers started doing that more consistently, that probably would lead to some serious renegotiation of structuring and organizational logistics. So teachers, hopefully you're not listening to this right now, but fellow principals, if you're not in a place that has a union, which makes it almost all of you, then you're not.
I have a
good luck.
strong feeling that our podcast is about to get blacklisted by a bunch of administrators that, and they're having their faculty manuals. You may not listen to this episode, the Christian Principals podcast. All right.
Hey, not only that,
I
got one more. Not only that, but these teachers, Glassdoor and other of these, salary scale, ACSI puts out, for whoever wants to see it, a review of what teacher salaries are in more specific geographic location than I had ever seen done before. So they're not, maybe they are talking amongst themselves with like the city or whatnot, but even that kind of stuff, it's becoming far more common. There's the Instagram and the YouTube shorts that are the people going around asking other people just running on the street, how much money do you make? Where do you live? What do you what's the cost of doing X, Y, Z? That's a conversation it's not grandma and grandpa's conversation of, you don't talk about that. There might be organizational stipulations that you don't talk about it, but really that's a common sort of conversation occurring in the world around us, industries around us now. It's definitely coming into our school. So
all right, let's get to these last couple of points here. The 6 is, if a teacher is staying late often, don't tell them you appreciate that. It's not healthy. Ask them how you can help them not have to stay late. And again, I appreciate the comment because I do have conversations with teachers that often stick around after school for quite a length of time. That they do need their rest. They do need to come out from the pit and fellowship with other living beings, get off their island every once in a while and actually realize, oh, there's a world out there. I see that. And I would tweak this a little bit of not just, the teachers that are coming or staying late, but the teachers that are coming, at the crack of dawn as well. You've got to look at both sides of that. And, obviously there's going to be different situations. I've got a teacher right now that has really made school his home because he doesn't have a family. He does have a family, just he doesn't have a wife. He doesn't have kids. He doesn't have, and he's not, on top of being a teacher, he's a student. And so, he's spending a lot of time either working on his classes to teach or classes that he's taking. And so he stays a lot for that. And while I definitely want to be encouraging, like, hey, there's a soccer game, get out and see the soccer game. Your deadline, it's still going to be there when the soccer game's done. That's an important thing. But I do want to say, that last comment, ask them how you can help them not to have to stay late, is an important thing for us as leaders to be thinking through and making sure that is
Mhm.
part of our conversations that we're having. How can I help you? How can I help you do your job better? That sounds really bad. Um, not not that you're already doing a bad job, but how can I strengthen you? How can I,
Mhm.
where are there areas that you could use more help? Or what demands do I have that are just unreasonable for you? Am I getting you here too early? Am I asking you to stay here too long? I actually had a teacher ask me this year, hey, you know, I is it all right if I take off earlier if I, give that time back at the beginning of the day as opposed to the end of the day? And I'm cool with that. I like that as because they're still understanding the necessity of getting that time in the classroom, in prep, and in making sure organization is where it needs to be. But at the same time, it's healthy for them and for their family situation, whether
Mhm.
they have a long drive to come to school to commute, or they've got family things, or perhaps even a second job, because in a lot of our schools that is a reality. So being mindful of that and just having those conversations so that teachers don't feel that they're not being seen, as we had an episode talking about that
Yeah.
you know the administrator doesn't know how hard I'm working. Well, we should be having those conversations to make it clear that we do know and we recognize it, and we want to make sure that they're living a healthy life.
Do you remember being single and having scads of time because I was young and dumb and beautiful? I was a beautiful single person.
In some ways, yes. In some ways, no, because I was only single during college and got married immediately afterwards.
Yeah.
So didn't really fully have that, complete
Yeah.
liberation of,
It's-
do whatever I want.
That's true.
But
As
I,
a
I
G,
do remember what it was like to not have kids. That is an
yes,
important point.
that's and even one kid in
Just
some ways was having like no kids because you should still take that kid with you and do whatever you wanted.
wow, yeah. Or yeah, when they were just that baby that you carried around in that seat all the time, and it just kind of
Yeah.
sat in the corner while we did what we wanted to
You know
do.
what's crazy?
Yeah,
Right
can't do
now,
that anymore.
Finn
Yeah, you
is
got your new one there
my less than my week old today is actually day and a week old
yesterday.
today is off to my left on the
Yeah,
ground in this barrier, just chilling.
yeah. See, that's
Because
a
again,
great kid. That's it. Why can't kids just stay like that?
all right, he says bottom line boils down to time. Teaching is a bottomless time pit. I like that
Yeah,
because it is. Because if
it
you're
is.
and especially if you're doing it well, you
Yeah,
could. I mean, probably just like the rest of the work that we do, you could put so much time into doing this. You could have the A++ lesson plan and game and recess time and conversation and relationship. Like you could definitely spend, and even considering a ministry, even more so, um, you could spend time immemorial on this job. Find creative ways to give them time back that has nothing to do with their job.
yeah,
That's strong. That's real strong, and I'm all there for it. I really am. But that line about it being a bottomless pit, find ways to give these teachers back some time, which then you get the critics saying, well, they have all summer. It's not that time enough, or they have
uh,
a different. So I get it, and I hear it, and may this be a call that we do just that. That we
yeah.
do give a nice time. We got to move on to our Christian administrator spotlight. And today we are spotlighting Mr. Michael Boole, principal at Canaan Christian Academy in Lake Ariel, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, like Ariel. Mr. Bull is a pretty special individual. Yes, he's an administrator. That makes him special.
Mhm.
He was also my administrator growing up at
Ooh,
Calvary Baptist Academy in Clymer, Pennsylvania. But Mr. Bull has been in Christian education for, I don't know if I should put a number on the number of years that he's been involved, because he probably wouldn't appreciate that. But he's been involved with 3 different Christian schools, as the leader, as the principal, as the head. And I mean, he's one of my heroes. I'm just going to say that straight
that's
out.
awesome.
He he is. he understands the value of Christian education, and he is doing his absolute best to make sure that schools are in a strong place. Even when he moved on from our school, he wasn't moving on because he was sick and tired of Clymer. It wasn't because of the people. He wasn't leaving because he wanted more pay. He wasn't leaving. He was leaving because he saw a school through to a place where he could leave, and it would continue on as it is, and he could help another school get to that same place. And I want to also say this about him. I feel that Mr. Bull, I actually shared this with him at the KCEA Educators Conference, as he's on the board of KCEA, has been for a long time. But he's somewhat responsible for starting this podcast because back in COVID, when we had to only communicate with our families via video and these kind of things, Mr. Bull made a comment to me with my videos that I was making, like, "Hey, thanks for posting that. We're going to start doing that." I went outside and made a video of our drop off and pickup line and was kind of communicating things. And he had people on his staff say, "Hey, we should do that. You should go out there and make that video." And so he said, "Keep making the videos because I'm getting lots of great ideas. This is wonderful." And we had a conversation where I said, "You know what? That would be a really nice thing if just every school administrator kind of published what they do, so we all didn't have to create the wheel on our own." And that little seed was planted, and through years, and this is what we've come up with. So thank you,
that's
Mr.
exciting.
Bull,
Thank you, Mr. Bull.
for that idea. And I know you are now a listener. Oh, I hear the Finn man.
Yeah,
There he
still with
is.
us.
But I know he's becoming a listener. Haven't, but yeah, thank you, Mr. Bull, for all that you do in Christian education.
Thank you, Mr. Bull. That sounds exciting. I need to get to know you more. You sound
Oh,
like
yeah.
someone who needs to come on this podcast and share your thoughts with us.
Yeah.
Tell us stories of yore.
Just
All
be
right.
careful when you talk to him, because he is looking for replacement.
Oh no. Well, if he's working himself out of a job, he always should be, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, always.
So before we keep going on, we want to send it over to our sponsor.
Almost missed it.
I was waiting for that. All right.
Phew.
All right. So the last thing we want to do is make a couple of reminders for you. The first reminder is that we are now on YouTube, so you can find us at Google Christian Principles Podcast on YouTube. You will see a lot of videos and several shorts that have been developed from some of these recordings of our podcast. We are staying a podcast. We're not looking to go into any kind of long form video or whatnot, but we are looking to leverage and to grow the brand a little bit more. And shorts and reels are definitely the way to do that. So we got to record it and then post it and make it into shorts. And then please smash that subscribe button on Spotify, on Apple. Please, if you do that, you make us better, you make us stronger, and you make us more visible. And that's what we need, more visibility, please.
And if there is a way on the different platforms for you to be notified whenever we upload new episodes, do try to, receive those notifications. I know they can be annoying, but we do have our normal Monday and Thursday episodes dropping.
Yep.
But as we have teachers conferences and as things in the nation happen, we do want to be throwing out a lot more bonus content as well, special episodes, either just with Mark or just with me or with together. So there may be some surprises out there. So if you have notifications clicked on, you'll be able to see those when they drop.
All right. So we'll see you at KCEA in November, or perhaps we'll see you at the Christian Coalition Conference in Western Maryland in early November, or maybe we'll see you at the Max Administrators Day in March 24th, 2025. But either way, I'm done talking now.
So what a wonderful episode. Thank you for listening.
Have a great day. Thanks for growing with us today.